Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Tim, how you doing, bro?
Doing very well.
Well, Tim, I got a topic for you today. Well, we just talked about it real briefly, and you were wrestling with it a little bit. But this has come up several times for me recently with several guys. And the topic is, it was a complaint about not being able to find other men that are doing the work, other men that are on the path of growth, be spiritual growth, the path of growth in general as a man, as a father, as a husband, going through there. I know you giggled a little bit before I hit record. Maybe Billy will add that back in or something. But I want to have this topic because I think a lot of guys feel the same way, right? They're on the path. They're listening to a podcast like this. Maybe they're reading a book. They have some Audible books going on. They're dabbling in the work is what I'll say, quite honestly, in my opinion. But they're not able to, they don't feel that they're able to connect with other guys. And, you know, this is one of the reasons.
Connect with other guys or find other guys that are doing the work? What do you mean?
Either or. Either or.
Not like connect as in connect with them, but like find them is, yeah?
Either way, both.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not my complaint, but so I think, what they're saying is, you know, hey, they're exploring the work, whether it be, you know, listening to this podcast as an example, reading books, maybe they're dabbling into yoga or something else that's a little bit more along a spiritual path, doing some kind of men's work, so to speak, but they don't feel as if maybe it's their friend circle, right? They're not the right people around there. They're not into it as they are going through.
Okay. I totally get it. I understand. I can imagine that's frustrating. You see what I did there? But yeah. Yeah, I can remember when I was in a similar position. And do you know what, Doug? It was a complete story that I made up.
I remember
I'm
that.
not saying it is for this particular guy or whoever's had the complaints, but it was. And what it came down to for me was that, and you used the word dabbling. I was dabbling and I was growing in private, keeping it to myself because I was embarrassed about what I was working on. And when I actually let go of that, and I chose to really own who I was and what I was working on, guess what then started to happen? Magically, guys started to show up because they knew I was there, right? But imagine it, you know, let's say that you were secretly doing men's work, right? You're secretly interested in learning to become a better man. Awesome for being interested in it. But if it's like this secret thing that you were just hiding in your back pocket and you walk into a bar full of people and you wanted to meet other men who are doing a similar thing, well, how the hell do they know that you're even that kind of guy? Like, what conversations are you starting with people? How do they know that you're that kind of guy, right? And where are you going? If you're wanting to go into a bar where all anyone does is get drunk, well, are you going to meet those kind of guys there? You know, it's super. The reality is, it's super easy to meet men that are doing the work. I mean, go on Facebook. There's our group. There's a ton of other Facebook groups. Honestly, now there's that many different men's groups. I don't know the quality of them or whatnot, but point is, there's a ton of men out there all interested in doing the work, which is awesome. You know, masculinity, if you will, at least in my opinion, is really on a great trajectory. If this continues, it just imagine where we'll be in 10, 20, 30, even 50 years. It's exciting. So anyway, point being is there's a ton of guys out there doing the work. And in order for them to know that you exist and to be attracted to you, then yeah, you get to be showing up as well. But if you're growing in secret, growing behind closed doors, embarrassed about what you're doing, keeping it to yourself, then obviously you're not going to meet anybody.
Well, no, that's exactly what it is, right? And I think, you know, one of the cool things about, you know, our Facebook group or the alumni group that we have. So we have, for the listeners, we do have our own private network where alumni are actually constantly in contact. Of course, we have the brotherhood, the inner circle, the pack. different groups that are within those, but the men connect with each other. And I think something you said is really poignant there, Tim, when you're relating it back to yourself is, if you're listening to this podcast as an example and you haven't shared it with a friend, that's on you, right? And I'm not saying this to be demeaning by any means, but at the same time, that's on you. Like, hey, maybe you have a conversation with a buddy after you got drunk about your relationship or something along those lines. But are you sharing resources like this? Are you sharing parts of the conversation? If you're still hanging out with your high school buddies or your friends that you grew up with, do you share this podcast with them? Right. And hey, this is what I'm listening to. Check this out. This guy from the States, this guy from UK, they're really weird. They talk about some crazy stuff. When they share, techniques to make it better. I'd love to hear what you think. And start the conversation. Start it locally first, right? Then you can go on to social media. We've talked about in previous podcasts the idea, and I love this definition, so I keep using it, of courage, right? Courage is...
You've been using that a lot lately?
I have been.
Yeah.
You haven't noticed? So I do it because people talk about, men, especially. Anyway, we don't have to get off on that sideline. But courage is being afraid. Like, what are they going to think of me? What if they don't like this podcast? What if I'm going to use the podcast as the example? What if they, think I'm weird? But you do it anyway, right? And so I did this, because I didn't want, when I first started doing kind of the work, personal development, it was cool to talk about business development, and be really good at business. And guys are like, oh yeah, help me out with my business. And I could talk about that and it felt good. But when I started talking about relationships, when I started talking about other aspects of growth, I was nervous to share it at first, right? And then I started sharing it with some of the guys, and some guys gave me shit for it, right? And it was fun. And I made it fun. It's a joke because I would have given them crap for it. But you know what happened, Tim? Every single one, not a couple, every single one of those guys eventually started doing the same things because I was taking action. I was getting results. And that was part of the conversation. If you wanted to hang out with me, part of the conversation was to have deeper conversations. I didn't want to talk about the weather the whole day. I didn't want to talk about the remember when we were in high school, remember when we were teenagers, what we used to do. That's fun every once in a while, but that wasn't the conversation I wanted to be in all day. Or sports. Love talking about them, but not the whole conversation. I want to get to know somebody. I want to really have a deep conversation. And so I was willing to raise my hand and say, hey, this is what I'm about. As a man, this is the things that I'm interested in. And it wasn't all about this kind of work. But to your point, if you walk into a bar, how does another guy know that you're interested in this? So how do you let people know that, hey, this is what I'm interested in, and I'm interested in talking to other people around these subjects?
And you're going to take some blows during this process. I did big time because some like you said, some people are going to laugh at you. They are probably going to well, I'm just talking about my own experience. I got laughed at. I got ridiculed. I got all sorts. And, some of those guys, a lot of those guys, in fact, would I say I'm friends with them? If they called me up and they needed my help, I'd be there. Like, I'd be there in a heartbeat. I wouldn't let those guys be suffering. We go back a long time. And I'll probably see them once a year. Christmas. We'll go out for a beer and we'll reminisce and we'll, but that'll be it. Nothing against the guys. It's just like you said, I don't want to be in that conversation, drinking alcohol every weekend and doing all the rest of it. I just don't want to be in that. It's just, nothing against anyone that does it or even them. It's just not what I'm interested in. So yeah, you might take some hits with this, but it's like, look, if you're avoiding doing this, then I wonder where else is that showing up in your life, right? Are you then complaining and saying, hey, I want a more connected, intimate relationship with my wife, yet you're not really having conversations with her about the things that matter, or you're not really honoring your word or validating her, things we've spoken about before? Or are you saying that, you wish you had more money, or you wish you worked less, but not really actually doing anything about it? Because the chances are, guys, if you saying, complaining that the men are not around, but you're exercising courage, like Doug said, and you're taking the action, and you still, they're not around, but I'm doing it. Then that's probably how you operate in life. And chances are you might even be in a less connected relationship, but you're taking risks, you're trying, you're putting yourself out there. Same across the board. Whereas if you're just complaining, but not really doing what you know you could be doing, and you know the truth, it's impossible to lie to yourself at a core level, you know. So if you're complaining, but you're not really doing what you know you could be, then just check in with that. Because like I said, where else is that showing up? And what is it costing you to do that?
Yeah, and it's really interesting. And, I think in this day and age, it's so easy to stay connected. Yet, if you haven't watched the Netflix documentary, Social Dilemma, right? I thought that was really fascinating. And it kind of applies here, is that you're fed in your news feed, things, right? We're so connected to the world, yet we're probably more disconnected from each other than ever before. And that's, one of the things the brotherhood does is it serves that desire to be around high performing men and having coaching and keeping in that conversation. So guys, if you find yourself in this situation where you're saying, hey, look, there's not other guys that I can come talk to or have these conversations, a simple thing you can do is just share this podcast. Right. And the people that are going to laugh at you or make fun or whatever it is you think that they're thinking, one is if they're joking with you and you joke with them, cool. Right. That's fine. You'll get over that. Right. They'll come around. But if they're people who truly ridicule you for listening to a podcast like this, they're not your friends anyway. Right. Those are your used to be friends. Right. The remember when friends. And one of the things that we do with some of the men is we recommend they clean house sometimes. Right? Look around the people that you're spending time with, right? To Tim's point, if you're spending time, if you want to be sober and you're spending time around a bunch of people who get drunk every night, not a good idea. If you want to be fit and everybody around you is fat and eating pizza all the time, chances are you're not going to get fit, right? So you want to surround yourself with people that are at least on the similar path as you or a direction as you, or people who've already been there, right? That's the key here. And if you can't find those people in your local area, right? First of all, as Tim said, raise your hand so people know that you are, because they're probably quietly listening. We see the stats of how many thousands of men listen to this show alone, right? So they're out there, right? Those guys are out there. But share this with them. Share it with 20 guys. I guarantee if you share it with 20 guys, a few guys are going to reply. Right? A few guys are going to come back and say, cool, thanks for sharing it. Now you're going to have a conversation with a couple guys. Later on, share it with 20 more. And now you're going to start forming your circle. You're going to start forming your group of friends. You're going to start forming this network, almost like an advisory board that can be around you and support you and hold you. And you can still talk about sports. You can still talk about all kinds of other things that you want to do, right? It doesn't have to be this is the only conversation you have, but you want to have men around you that are in this conversation about being a powerful man. What does it mean to be a powerful man? What does it mean to be a modern day man? Because that is going to move you forward to the dreams that you have and to the life that you really want.
I love that. Yeah, it reminds me at the minute, I think I shared this either with you or on a podcast. Was it last week? Yeah, I think it was when I was reviewing my quarter. And I was like, I really want to make more of an effort with my friendships. And I thought, okay, well, obviously I speak with Doug regularly. I speak with Arthur. But there's certain guys that I keep meaning to connect with. And I just bounce a message back and forth here and there. Before you know it, 4 months has passed by. And they don't live in, one of them lives in Leeds. Everybody else one lives in Paris, one lives in San Diego, one lives in Croatia, they live kind of all over the world. And I'm like, do you know what? What I'm going to do is just reach out to these guys and just see if they'd like to get something on the calendar for once a month. That's it. Once a month for half an hour, because it's short enough to make sure that enough can happen in between then. Well, short enough so that, we're connecting regularly, but also long enough so things can happen instead of 3-4 months passing by. Anyway, this past week, last week I connected with one of them. last week, this week I've connected with one. The week before I connected with one. And I tell you what, just having those kind of conversations in your life is just enriching. It really is. Being able to have the conversations with other men that are doing the work and that, like you said, are in the conversation of being a powerful man. And all these guys are different ages, different stages of life. Some are single, some are married, some are, it's a great flavor and texture of different people to be involved in, because I have a very unique lens through which to see the world. They're all very, very different, which is, again, great, right? But again, what that has added to my life over the past few weeks has been great. It's been really, really enjoyable. So it kind of comes back to the initial point, right, of wanting to find men to be in conversation with them with. It's so worth it, guys. So, go through the process, jump into our group, even on Facebook, super easy to do. Can post questions there. Myself, Doug, the other guys will get back to you. So, but whatever you do, if you're feeling the desire for this, honor it. Don't step away from the line with it, because it can really add a ton of value to your life.
I totally agree. A little bit shocked that just talking to Arthur and I isn't enough for you, but we can address that another time. Something that's interesting, and we'll wrap up here, Tim, that, some guy told me that they do is within our Facebook community, but on Facebook, if you're on social, you can actually have a watch party, right? And the guy was talking about, they crack a couple beers, he and buddies that live around, and they watch this podcast, right? And they talk about it, right? And they have jokes and stuff about you and I going back and forth. But what he said is it feels like they're in the room with us. And then the guys, after we're done, right, they have a conversation about it, shooting it back and forth, and they're able to talk about their marriage, their wives, their kids, or whatever that subject is. So guys, you could just throw a watch party, invite a couple other guys, and start there. Start small, make it easy for yourself to get in.
Good idea. I like that.
All right, gentlemen, that's a wrap for us here at The Powerful Man Show. As always, take action and go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus. That's thepowerfulman.com/bonus. All right, Tim, that's a wrap for us. And guys, we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.